Where do the parties stand right now if an election is called on Sunday?
Well, if an election were held today, we'd probably be looking at a Liberal majority. The Liberals are in the high 30s. The Conservatives are about 10 points back of the Liberals, and then the New Democrats are nipping at the Conservative heels in third place. So if there were an election held today, the Liberals would win. But I guess if you're the Conservatives, the good news is the election is not today. And it'll be interesting to see how the campaign rolls out.
Obviously, the Liberals looking at polls such as yours and also their own internal polls saying that now is the time they see themselves as having the edge here, Nick.
Absolutely. But the fact of the matter is that as soon as the election is called, it is a massive reset button on public opinion because the opposition parties will get more profile. Canadians will be examining not just the Liberal government, but all of the federal parties. And it'll be more of a level playing field, especially from a media profile and exposure perspective.
One of the things I've heard, Nick, is, people I've spoken to in the last month or so, why are we doing this? Why have an election? There's a pandemic. We're now in a fourth wave. I know you've done some polling on that. We're going to bring it up. Sort of the interest, what people think about the importance of a fall federal election or not being important, as the case may be. Can you walk us through these numbers?
Absolutely. As you can see, Todd, a whopping that's dripping sarcasm, by the way. A whopping 15% of Canadians think that it's outright important to have a federal election this fall. Another 23% somewhat important. But, when you look at the people that aren't into an election, it's like almost 6 out of every 10 Canadians, or 58%, don't think that it's important to have an election now, while only 38%. So not a lot of enthusiasm. I think a lot of people are just recovering from the third wave, trying to see loved ones, perhaps live a real life, and enjoy the summer. And this will be a, what do we call it, an unwelcome intrusion on the summer after the third wave.
And I guess that is the wild card, Nick, isn't it? About which way this pandemic goes and the effect it could have politically on the Prime Minister.
Absolutely. The thing is we don't know whether there could be a fourth wave during the course of the election if it's called as soon as people think. The other thing that's a big wild card has to do with mail-in ballots. And in 2015, only 55,000 votes were cast by mail. Elections Canada is estimating not 55,000, maybe upwards of 5 million. So just think of that. We could have an election night that could be similar operationally to the United States, where there's certain ballots that are counted on Election Day, and then we have to wait for Elections Canada to count the rest. That'll be another big change on the electoral scene in this particular campaign.
And obviously the political calculus so crucial as to when to call an election, when to trigger it. There was speculation it was going to happen in the spring, and then that didn't happen. And then there's been a lot of buzz about the middle of August. It looks like that is going to happen. We'll see. Just the notion of, is there ever a right time with so much uncertainty?
Well, I don't think there's a good time, especially with the pandemic, to have an election because you're basically hostage to whatever the public health situation is. But I think what the Liberals are going to have to do at the very beginning of the election is explain why an election now. Usually elections are called because there's a fixed election date or perhaps a government is defeated in the House of Commons. In this particular case, the Liberals were able to pass the legislation that they wanted to pass. They were able to push out stimulus out the door to help Canadians and Canadian enterprises. And yeah, it was an ugly parliament, toxic, perhaps, but still got the work done, so to speak. So the Liberals will have to kind of explain why now and what the urgency is to have an early election.